Meow? Really? Really? Is that is that true? Really? Are you sure? I I don't know, man. Who would say that about you? What a guy. Am I right? Hey everybody. Today is going to be a little bit different. There aren't really many slides because we're going to talk about stacks and queues. I believe this is probably review for the most of you. And we're just going to do live coding today. So yeah, what do you think, Katza? There we go. There he is in all of his glory. We'll see how long he hangs out with us. Um, he might leave to go lay in my jeans on the floor. I don't have the heart to take them away from him. It's his favorite cat bed. So, hey. Anyway, let's get into the coding. Hey ho. All right, so I have not set up presentation mode. One moment, please. Appearance. Presentation. Key map. Yes. Add a shortcut. Apply. Excellent. All right. Boop. Uh, excellent. So now we have some stacks and queues. Oh boy, what was I thinking with this CMake list? Oh, well, okay, it'll work. Excellent. Okay. So, we have written a test already. So let's check this out. Let's learn about what queues should be by looking at the test for them, right? It's a good way to learn about what you're going to do is look at the test for them. So we have a queue. It's given a capacity of 10, a capacity of 10, and then we're going to in-queue some things. So 2, 4, 2, 8, and then we're going to dequeue them, which appears to return a value. And so what we're going to say is that queues are first in, first out. They're like grocery store lines, right? So if you're the first person in line at the grocery store, you're the first person to leave. Uh, so a dequeue will remove the first thing that we put into this data structure and also return it. So we're going to return this 2. Okay? So we expect this to print 2. And we could also do something like, I'll do what's called a variable extraction. So refactor variable. Replace this occurrence only, and I'm going to say like that. We're going to print value, and we're going to say if value equals to cout pass. Okay, and we'll grab this again. Well, actually, we'll grab all of this again for this dequeue. And we'll expect this to be 4. Okay, so we're just sprucing up our code. The spruce goose. And but right now, if we go to enqueue, there's nothing there, right? So we could run this code and we'll get a runtime error that's like, hey nerd, you didn't implement enqueue. If you want to know, I'm control clicking to go to its definition, and then I'm hitting the back button on my mouse, which you can bind to other things, to go backwards and forwards between these two places. So this will be a little bit of an IDE tips and tricks session as well. All right, so let's look. First line of code calls the constructor, so let's go do that. Let's go see, what is this constructor? Oh, look, we've already started. Oh, so it looks like we're just making an array with this capacity. Excellent. So if we go over here to this file with one swift click, we can see that we have capacity, and then we have a size, capacity, start, end, and array. So start, end, and array makes me think that we need to have a start at 0 and an end at 0 to say where in this array our queue starts and ends. And we're just going to ignore whatever else is in the array, which is something you're going to have to remember. All right, so let's run our code. I forget the keybind for run. Run queues. Shift F10. And there's an error, right? So there's undefined references. So we got to fix those undefined references. So we go up here, we click on this, and then I'm going to hit Alt Enter to generate a definition, and it will actually generate the definition over in the CPP file and take me to it. So here we go. We have a no op in here. It doesn't do anything, but that's fine. We want to test as we go, so we're going to do that. Shift F10, and look, we get 2 zeros out. Oh, and I didn't put else statements in for fails. Fail. All right, so we have some failing tests. Nice. So let's try to get them to be passing tests. So because we need enqueue and dequeue to get our test to pass, let's implement enqueue and then run it to make sure at least it runs, right? And then we'll implement dequeue. So we want to put something at the start of our array, right? So what we're going to do is we get this data. We're going to say array at start equals data. And then we're going to say start we're going to leave alone, right? Because that's still where the beginning of our data is. Oh no, sorry, we're going to do array end. So we're going to put this at the end of the line. Duh. So right, so when you add something to a queue, like when you go to the grocery store and you get into the queue, where do you slot in the queue? You slot in at the end, not at the beginning, right? If you slot it in at the beginning, you'd probably make some people unhappy. Then, since we've added someone at the end, we need to increment by 1 end so that end is now a free space that somebody can put in. Now, do we have a size variable? We do. We have a size and a capacity variable. So we need to make sure that that's initialized to 0. And here we're also going to increment that as well. Before we get in here, we say if size equals capacity, we're going to throw an exception. Alt. Um, capacity exceeded. Okay. And then Alt Enter to import that. And then, oh, does a standard exception not take arguments? Okay, so we'll just throw a standard exception for now. Okay, so we'll just throw that exception. Excellent. Makes sense? Hopefully. So now let's run our code. So we wrote something, we should run it. Also, we should commit it. If you're using Git, I'll commit it implemented in queue. We'll commit and push, and it'll go up to the interwebs. Excellent. So I'll log in via GitHub. Yeah. And I've logged in. Cool. Push failed? Log in. Log in. All right, it's mad at me. Oh well. So I guess it's not letting me push, but that's okay. It still ran. Was it Alt F10, Shift F10? Shift F10. So an exception was thrown. What? What? So let's debug. Let's Shift F9. And it just threw an exception. Oh, right. We need that, don't we? See, this is why you test as you go. There was a bug in there, and I caught it. Right? I didn't think I had written a bug in here, but I did. So we caught it. Nice. All right. So now, DQ. How do we DQ? We have to shift the array back to fill empty space. Do we? Do we? Let's ignore that for now. Let's just talk about what we think we need to do. So DQ is remove something from the front of an array, right? Or no, sorry, from the front of the array. So we put stuff in the back, and then we want to remove something from the front, right? Just like a line at the grocery store works, or anywhere for that matter. Um, so what we're going to do is we're going to say int to return equals array start, right? So we take the person off the front. Now we need to somehow, so that's the data that we're going to return to the calling function. But then how do we remove it from the array? Well, now I have an array in here, and I have these two things, start and end, which is the index of the beginning of the queue and the index of the end of the queue. So what I can do is remove it from the queue by just moving start for like back one. So what I'll do is start plus plus. And now it's removed. Nice. Okay. So now we have start plus plus. Looks good. Anything else we need to do? We need to remove one from the size because the array just got smaller, and then we want to return to return. And then we're gonna debug. And we have a pass and a fail. A pass and a fail. So let's go look at our test. I actually wasn't expecting it to fail, which is why tests are wonderful. So let's see. We DQ once. We print out the value. Oh, we never DQ a second time. So let's do that. Excellent. And then let's run it. 2 passes. Yes. All right, now let's write another test. Okay. So we're going to enqueue how many values did we enqueue here? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we have 4 in there. So we're going to do 4 I equals 0 to 6. Actually, yeah. And then we're going to do q dot enqueue I. Okay. Then we're going to if q.dq. So we put in, what did we put in? 242. We DQ'd once and twice, so we would expect this to be a 2. We'll just do our pass fail situation here. Actually, what I'm gonna do, here's another bit of magic. I'm gonna do what's called a function extraction. Maybe extract method. Void is going to be assert. It takes as an argument a boolean name called expression, and it does nothing. It just voids. extract. Okay, so it's exerting Q. Really, we want it to. So it kind of messes up from time to time. Still a useful tool. Um, oh, I'm overriding assert. This should be like assert true. Ah, cool. And now we'll put that up here. Nice. So now we can um, simplify our code a little bit here. Okay, insert true. Come on. Add a bit of a phone call there. Excellent. All right, so now we're going to assert this, and we're going to run this. Pass, pass, pass. Okay, so now let's do q.deque. So now there should be 10 things in there, right? So I'm going to deque 2 things, and then I'm going to enqueue 2 things. Right? And then we're going to run it. Why did that work? This should have segfaulted. Let's see why it didn't. So we're here in the queue. So the size capacity end is 12. That's bad because the array is only size 10. So for some reason this isn't segfaulting. Sometimes things won't segfault even though you know they should, but this is a problem. So how do we deal with the fact that this is 12 now? Right? There's still only 7 things in here, but it's now going from 5 to 12. The answer is actually an enqueue and dequeue. You have to, when you add to this, when you add to start and end, you have to check to see if you've reached capacity. If you've reached the capacity, then you need to reset all the way back to 0, which is a circular queue. This is probably going to show up on a homework or a project. So I've kind of laid the groundwork for you here so that you can kind of see what a normal queue does with an array and that you can adjust it. Bear in mind, this is also using an array underneath. We could also use a linked list, which is what we're going to do in the next video. Yeah.